Call to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It'd be helpful if I turn my phone down to silent. That's a good idea. Yeah, if y'all hadn't already done so, check your phones, turn them to silent. I just found it. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's another night, another meeting. This is good. Roll call. I know that Dr. Bailey will be here in a little bit. Alan Stork?
Here.
William Gusshot?
Here.
Jeff Spink?
Here.
Doug Tysted?
Here.
Robert Owens?
Here.
Steve Skeet is absent tonight. Dan Clemens?
Here.
And Stephen Rosenthal. All right.
Present.
So, let the record show we have 7 plus me is 8 here, 7 to vote tonight. All right. Secretary's report.
All right. Just to explain the mix-up in the agenda, tonight we will start with the Board of Zoning Appeals. So when you are approving this agenda, it's just the Board of Zoning Appeals agenda. Once the Board of Zoning Appeals has been finalized, we will go to the Planning Commission like normal.
Okay.
You have 2 items on the regular agenda for the Board of Zoning Appeals. And then, again, if you approve the agenda, it's just for the BZA.
Got it. Do I have any declarations? Morning, afternoon, tonight. Do I have any declarations? I know that, Steve, you volunteered to sit out for the Board of Zoning Appeals, correct? All right. So we'll have 6 voting for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Any others? Okay. Do I have a motion for approval of Board of Zoning Appeals agenda?
So moved.
All right. Thanks, Doug. And I have a second. Dan, thank you. Okay. I got a motion and a second. I'll call the roll. Alan Stork?
Yes.
William Gusshot?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Dan Clemens?
Yes.
All right. Let the vote no. 6-0. The approval of Board of Zoning Appeals is approved. You want to stay sitting there, or you want to?
They said I could.
All right, that's awesome. All right, good deal. All right. All right, this time I need to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals here. Okay. Leavenworth County Board of Zoning Appeals will now consider case DEV 24-091, a variance request from Article 41, Section 6, Exhibit B1A, residential entrance spacing of zoning and subdivision regulations. Planning staff will now give staff report.
All right, good evening, gentlemen. The case before you this evening is case DEV 24-091. This is a variance request from the zoning and subdivision regulations of Article 41, Section 6, Exhibit B1A, which is the residential entrance spacing for the access management. The property is located along Tonganoxie Drive, also known as 00000 Tonganoxie Drive. Tonganoxie Drive is considered to be a major arterial road, which requires 660 feet between entrances. The applicant is proposing to place an entrance just north of an existing culvert on a tract of land that currently does not have an entrance. This would put the proposed entrance approximately plus or minus 496 feet to the north of the south existing driveway, and approximately 627 feet to the south of the north existing driveway. These measurements were collected by using the distance tool in the GIS mapping system. The county has a requirement that every lot is granted an access. When Public Works reviewed this case, they determined that the proposed location was the safest and best place for access. When the planning staff the planning staff's policy is that we do not make recommendations of approval or disapproval. We just provide analysis of the 5 statutory factors. Your decision is based upon whether the request meets or does not meet each of those 5 statutory requirements. If it is determined that one of the 5 requirements are not met, then the request does not pass. The 5 requirements are identified on page 2 of your staff report. The applicant is here to discuss their variance further and to answer any questions you may have. That being said, I am subject to your questions.
All right. All right. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since this is a public hearing and it's being recorded. Thank you, Joe.
Good evening.
All right. So you're representing the... Got it.
Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315, but that did a great job.
It's open.
Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right, I appreciate it. And the only thing that wasn't discussed, that this road does have some road plans going through process with the county, and I think it was state funded or something to that effect, for safety issues along it, just to help with the shoulders, and at the time, you know, the road is going to be safe. So, public works is a safe place. Here, basically, to answer the questions if you have any.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? I think everybody had a chance, everybody had an opportunity to review this and look through it. It helps when Public Works is supportive of it, and you did pick the safest spot for the entrance. Okay. All right. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Yep. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this request? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this request? Okay. Any other additional information be presented?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. All right. Public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions, comments from the commission? Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion on this request.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the commission pass case number DEV-24-091 as presented by staff and in consideration of the golden factors.
Second. All right. I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion of the motion? Okay. I have a motion and a second. I'll call roll. Alan Stewart,
Yes.
William Guschock.
Yes.
Does help if I put a Y there. Jeff Spink,
Yes.
Doug Tysted,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Dan Clemens.
Yes.
All right. Let the vote know. Roll call is done. The motion is carried by a vote of 6-0 in approval of the variance. Separate. Give me just a second here. Move on to the second variance. Leavenworth County Board of Zoning Appeals will now consider case DEV 24-096, variance request from Article 41, Section 6, Exhibit Bravo 1A, residential entrance spacing, and Article 41, Section 6, Exhibit Bravo 1B, 3, secondary access of zoning and subdivision regulations. Requires public hearing. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Planning staff will now give a staff report.
Right. The next case is DEV 24-096. This is a variance request from the zoning and subdivision regulations of Article 41, Section 6, Exhibit B, 1 Alpha, which is the residential entrance spacing for access management, and Article 41, Section 6, Exhibit B1B3, which is lots under 3 acres are only allowed one primary entrance. This is a concurrent application with case DEV 24-071 and 072. This property is approximately 5 acres in size, which would allow for a secondary entrance on their parcel. However, the applicants are proposing to subdivide the property into 2 smaller 2.5 acre lots, which violates the regulations by having more than one entrance on a lot less than 3 acres. One of the entrances would have to be removed in order for it to conform with regulations. The property is located along 166th Street, also known as 18081 166th Street. 166th Street is considered to be a high-volume collector road, which requires 300 feet between entrances. The applicants are requesting both entrances to remain in place. The northern entrance on Lot 2 is a proposed shared access for both lots. The distance between both of the current entrances on Lot 2 is approximately 122 feet. The distance between the southern existing entrance on Lot 2 to the next driveway is approximately 112 feet. These measurements were collected using the distance tool on the GIS mapping system. The Public Works Department has made comments that they do not support this request since this action is being created through a platting action that would require the applicants to conform with the current regulations. The planning staff's policy is that we do not make recommendations of approval or disapproval. We just provide analysis on those 5 statutory factors. Your decision is based upon whether the request meets or does not meet those 5 statutory requirements. If it is determined that one of the 5 requirements are not met, then the request does not pass. The 5 requirements are identified on page 2 of your staff report. The applicant is here to discuss their variance request further and to answer any questions you may have. With that being said, I am subject to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Upon opening this public comment portion of the hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since this is a public hearing being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Would the applicant please come forward? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th Street. Staff, again, did a great job covering this. The owners are here and want to talk also on this request. The driveways have been in place. The north one over 25 years, the south one, significantly longer, and well before the other driveway, 112 foot south, was ever constructed. It was there first. Those are the 2 key things. Safety is always an issue. The north driveway is at the top of the hill. It is absolutely in the safest location of any other place on this property, and that's the one they want to share between both lots. City of Basel was contacted on this by staff because it's up against the city limits, and I contacted them as well, and they sent the letter to you saying that they had no comment on it. So that, in my opinion, that means they have no problem with what is happening here for the request. One of the key things here too is, the first thing is safety. That is absolutely the safest location, in my opinion. It's top of the hill. If they have to build another driveway to the north, it's all the way down at the bottom of the hill. There is a gas line down there, high pressure gas line. That is quite a process to get a driveway to cross that, and something they want to avoid. The other issue is right now with 5 acres, they could build an accessory dwelling unit, pull that permit, $800, build a second house on it, and the driveways would never be looked at. They're not asking to move the driveways or create new driveways. They're just asking to use their property as it's been used for over 25 years. But the fact that they could build a house right there and the county wouldn't even, have this issue with those two driveways, is significant because they are allowed to do that. The owners assume and acknowledge that this is a variance. They acknowledge that this is the safest location, and that's what they want to use. If they have to move it, we would like to see how that is safer than what they have right now. And like I said, the owners are here to talk further about the need for this request. And, I'm here to answer any questions outside of that.
Joe, if they have to move that road to the north, their driveway entrance to the north, are they way at the bottom of the hill? Or are they about 2/3 down the hill?
Well, I would anticipate that the northern driveway wouldn't be moved. It's the safest one. It's at top of the hill. And like I said, it's been there for over 25 years.
Right.
All the people that have driven out there, the neighbors and everything, are accustomed to these driveways right there. But it would have to go 300 feet farther down the hill, and the actual safest location is at the base of the.
So we've been moving it from the safest location to probably the most unsafe location. The northbound traffic on 166th Street be cresting that hill and coming right onto their driveway.
Right, they crest that hill. Right now, they're cresting it at the top of the hill at the driveway location, but they would be within 300 feet of it. And if you look at the map right there, I mentioned City of Basel right there. You're not going to get any more driveways from the east, on the east side of the road. They're already platted out lots. The back of the lots are there. So these are the driveways that have been there for over 25 years, and it's the road everybody drives. So, thank you.
Hang on, Joe. Don't.
Okay, I'll leave it.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, so there's two issues here, as I see it. The first is Southern Driveway, which is not in compliance with, I understand it's been there for 30 years or 40 years or whatever, but it's not in compliance with current regulations. Is that correct?
It does not meet spacing requirements to the driveway to the south. Yeah,
Okay.
this driveway was there first. The people put the other driveway there, making theirs not compliant, or vice versa, his isn't compliant.
You're talking the gap between those
Yeah,
driveways.
112 feet, I think is what it says,
Two,
between the two driveways.
Yeah, 212 feet.
212,
So you got
yes.
112 to the south, and then you got 122 to the north driveway. So it's the same spacing, in theory.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, but then they're asking not to have to put a driveway in the northern lot. Is that correct?
Correct. They want to use these two only. They do not want to install another driveway not at the top of the hill.
So
So there will not be any more driveways.
will there be
placed.
an easement required?
There is an easement on the face of the plat that you would see if this is approved. You'll get to vote on that
That's the agenda.
on the agenda item.
Yep.
So to be clear, Joe, we're just, either we're going to say yay or nay for them to take that north driveway, cut an access to get to their other 2.5 acre lot. Is this how I'm looking at this?
Basically, in my opinion, it's
Or they replot that 2.5 acres, build a house up there and put a driveway wherever they want it.
well, no, you'd have to meet policy. You don't get to put it wherever you want.
Well, yes, but I mean, if they decide to buy a building permit, John, am I wrong? If they bought a building permit for that piece of property, what's stopping them from putting the driveway within the means of the codes?
As long as it meets the spacing requirements, and that is the primary access, yeah, we would permit it, the access also. So if you create a new lot, it has to have access.
Correct.
That access has to be.
But-
has to meet the
So and they're just asking to use their existing driveway to drive onto this other parcel of land.
Absolutely.
But they're also asking to keep the southern driveway open.
Yes.
Because they have a turnaround
Clearly
driveway.
out of the code, the
And
current
that's why
code.
we're here
That's why
to get
we're
a
discussing the
zoning
variance.
variance from that.
But if I understand right, had they not asked to split the property, they're still using the two driveways on that little tiny piece of that property anyway, aren't they?
Exactly. Nothing's changing for that, other than the property is now less than 5 acres.
Don?
Been there forever.
Or less than, 3 acres, yes. It is after lunch.
Right.
And the owners would like to speak. So.
Now, go back to the other. Now, if they're saying they want to use that northern driveway as the main driveway and they want access to, there's nothing to say they couldn't have already done that for years, having a dirt gravel driveway that goes into the northern part of their property.
Yeah. And that driveway, like I said, it's been there over 25 years. Everybody's used to it. It's the top of the hill, safest place.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. So, do you all understand what this variance, depending upon what we do on this variance, rolls into one of the cases?
If we're going to give them an easement or not.
I just want to make sure you guys are tracking.
The variance is allowing the southern driveway to stay. Is that correct?
Essentially, yes, sir. That's
So
what
if we
the
don't
variances
approve
are going to be
if we
doing.
don't
It's going to be
approve
allowing both driveways to
remain in effect.
in effect.
Okay, so if we don't approve it, then they can only use the northern driveway.
If you do not approve the variance request, then you would they would have to go back to redesign the actual plot, whether it's to keep the shared access with the northern drive that is currently there and remove the southern drive, or however it is that they designed to do it, or if both lots have one entrance for their lot. But they would have to go back and redesign the plot to
accommodate the access management.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Now, are the roads supposed to have 300 feet between access? 300, right?
Well,
It is
Size
300, yes, based off of the classification of this road, it's 300 feet in between each driveway entrance.
So if they get rid of the south, they still don't meet it. Because the 112 and the 122 is 234. That's still not 300. So they're going to need a variance anyway.
Well, so it's an existing driveway is essentially what it would be, and that's one of the things that like we have. I guess we've always kind of done. We've never made them move an actual driveway if it's just one primary entrance. We never made them move the driveway since they already have an existing driveway in there. Then we've never made them move it, so they could potentially just keep that northern driveway there and still have the shared access, like what is that they're wanting.
I'm just making sure I understand all the nuances, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, my question is, so which house was built first, the one to the north or the one to the south? Because somebody didn't pay attention to a code here.
well, unfortunately, Robert, that's not what we're here
Well,
tonight.
yeah, and I get that, but
mean,
we've already made a mix-up here in the past. Now we got to make a variance to fix it.
Commissioner Rhodes, I just want to answer that. The current access management policy was taken into effect in 2021. Prior to that, the separation could have actually met regulations.
Was less than 300 foot prior to 2021.
I don't know the specifics for this property, but yes, it could have been in compliance at that time.
All right.
Well, yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah. Nobody checked up on this stuff in 1986.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor or opposition of this request? Please come up, state your name and your address, and tell me which one you are for, ma'am.
My name is Tammy Potts, and my husband and I own the property at 18081 166. We purchased it in 1991. The driveways in question went in 1986, and it is a circle drive. Originally, there were just the three, there was a farmer down the hill and a farmer on the corner and us. And that's the way it was for many, many years. And so as things have grown, obviously, there have been things that have changed in the county as well. I wanted to put a face onto why this became a problem in our family. At Christmas, I retired, really an emergency retirement from the Basin Linwood School District. I'd served, since '98 there. I am here because we have a grandson who is terminal. And in December this is the guy that we're wanting to make the changes for, okay, guys? And we have time against us at this point. We don't know. We've been told that he might make it 2 years. He's literally 19 months. We almost lost him 2 Saturdays ago. Our plan is to split the property so we can deal with caregiving. I don't know if you've ever dealt with a disabled child who cannot breathe, but he has no cerebellum that works, which means he does not know how to remember how to breathe. So he may never talk, may never walk, may never sit up. At this point, he doesn't feed himself. He's fed with a tube. And I drive daily to Tonganoxie to go help out with caregiving. We are at the point where he has an older sister who, I'm so grateful. She is healthy. He has Joubert syndrome. It's extremely rare. There are only a very few children in the United States who actually make it past the age of 2. And if they're lucky, they make it to 7. And if they make it to 7, they may make it to 13. And that's where the cutoff happens. So we're looking at time, guys. And I don't want to argue about a driveway. If you came out and you drove that, you would know the top of the hill is the absolute safest point. All the buses that have stopped at my mailbox, which is where the flattest driveway is, the ups guys always choose right there to come in and go out because it's the flattest point and it's a complete turnaround access point. When you look at the hill going down in bad weather, at the bottom of the hill, that's where water gathers. That major pipeline that's at the bottom, that's always been a huge concern. We have Ginger Creek neighborhoods right across from us, and I don't know how they got all the houses in there and that line being straight there, but they come out occasionally and they do check all those lines and the variances. If you would, his name is Jasper, her name is Bowie. We are just trying to figure out a way to build a house, get this going, so maybe we can alleviate a little bit of heartbreak that's happening in our family right now. We're not asking to make money, sell it, any of that kind of stuff, guys.
We got it. We got it, Ms. Potts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your point's made. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry for the family condition. Yes, sir.
Darrell Potts, Tammy's husband, 1808 166th Street. The issue with changing the North Drive is right at that point when the road plummets and goes down towards the creek. Our property stays elevated. So the farther you go down that hill, the higher the berm is. I mean, and you're talking 5 or 6 feet at the shallowest point, and then you get down, it's even farther. So you're talking putting in a steep drive in the middle of a hill to try and pull out of that you can only pull one way unless you turn around and go back.
So, Mr. Potts, is that the reason why you want to be able to just keep that northern driveway the way it is? Because just beyond that, it starts dropping downhill and it gets down.
Okay. At the top of the hill, and then it drops. And like I said, the road goes down, but the property stays up.
Yeah, I got you.
At the very north end, the property does drop, but there's a pipeline from Magellan Pipeline that runs right down through our property. It goes across and goes through Ginger Creek, too. So I'm assuming we couldn't build a drive on the gas pipeline. We'd have to move it more to the south. And this 300 thing deal variance, I have never heard of it till this now. But I mean, we got a new neighbor. Well, I say a new neighbor. He's been there 6 or 7 years building a house. But he can't be 100 foot from our driveway. So I don't know where that came from. I mean, if we'd have been aware, maybe we'd have thought something else. But I mean,
that's all right.
No problem.
That's all right. I mean, these, information, the way information gets out is, it's always a challenge.
But like Tammy said, we're not in this to make no money or try to do anything or screw anybody around and cheat anything. We're doing it for personal reasons so my son and his wife and that child can be next door so we can help.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Potts. Appreciate it. Do I have anyone else in favor of this request? Do I have anyone in opposition of this request? Any other additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
All right. The public comment portion of this public hearing is now closed. Questions, comments from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we approve DEV-24-096 as presented.
I'll second that.
But you got to wait for him to finish.
Go ahead. Sorry, sir.
That's all right.
I mean, this was silly.
Because I wanted to hear him say all the things as part of it, you know.
Maybe we can do that in discussion.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
we can.
Anyway, so I have a motion to approve the case DEV 24-096 variance request from Article 41, Section 6, Exhibit Bravo 1A, residential entrance spacing, and Article 41, Sections Exhibit secondary access of the zoning and subdivision regulations. I have a motion and I have a second. Do I have discussion of the motion and the second on the floor?
Only thing I would add is I read in the packet that the other reason why they want to do the shared drive and go north is so they wouldn't have to go out to the road just to come back in the other to see the sun. They want the quickest, most expeditious way. That's only common sense to me.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's common sense is what it is.
No, but
All right.
okay, I'm still. I don't have a problem with the northern drive, but there are two issues here, and the southern drive remains an issue. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the northern drive wouldn't be 300 feet, but it'd be more than 112. And it's in the safest place, granted. But there were two issues here. The second is the variance for the secondary entrance, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the secondary entrance is considered the southern entrance, or is the secondary entrance considered the northern entrance?
So, sir, I think it's either or, because how I believe how they have an address.
One has to be a secondary entrance.
So how they have an address based off of the GIS map, it appears as if the southern drive is the primary access, because that was the drive that was put in first, and then the northern drive was put in a little bit later. But how they're addressed off of that southern drive.
So that's the primary entrance.
That's by map pinging the south address as the primary address, but we just had them present that the northern address is the primary because of safety reasons. So that may be what a map and a Google-looking thing is telling you is the primary based on the pin, but that doesn't really mean what the primary driveway is. So I understood the primary driveway was the northern driveway.
That will be post-plating condition.
Okay.
What you're looking at before you is pre-plating condition.
Okay.
So yes, I understood the
Okay.
same thing after the plating condition, should it go through.
Right.
Should you approve it, yes, that would be there.
Okay. Okay.
So would we have to address both of them, or is they both together?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to
I
address
think-
those.
So
I
if
think
we
we're really
approve this,
nitpicking.
and we're approving both drives can stay open,
Yes.
is that what we're approving?
Yes.
If we approve this?
Northern Drive will be used for the
Northern drive will continue to be used as the primary drive, and the southern drive will be used as a secondary drive.
Okay.
Basically, what we're approving
That's-
is to approve a grandfather effect. Is the way I'm looking at this. It's grandfathered in. It's been there forever, and it was long prior to. That's kind of the way I'm looking at this.
This would not be an issue unless the plating condition happened, and the Public Works Department is bound by the regulations.
Yeah.
If we're not for that, this would be no issue.
That's what I was saying earlier. Is
Yep.
if they hadn't been plotting their land for a 2.5 acre and put an additional home on it
And again,
for family,
intent
we wouldn't be here.
Northern lot is to address
Yeah.
the lot that will be created post-plating.
Yep. Yep.
So yes, to answer your question, the short term, yes, you're approving the location of both drives where they stand today.
Okay. Any other discussions? It's good. Thanks. Thanks for bringing that up. That's good. Any other discussions? Okay, so I have a motion to approve and a second to approve. No more discussion. I'll call the roll. Alan Stewart?
Yes.
Yes. William Guschalk?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Doug Tystad?
No. And the reason is the secondary entrance variance.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Dan Clemens?
Yes.
All right. The motion is carried by a vote of 5-1, which means we will hear the case agenda later into tonight. With that, do I have a motion for adjournment of Board of Zoning Appeals?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting is adjourned. We will begin Planning Commission immediately following this. Allow me to get my book reset, please.
Come on, baby. So why?
There's no way in the world we could have denied that when you just approved it. At least we're consistent. You know, we're asking for variance on both, and it's consistent.
How did the other driveway to the south get put in if there's already zoning regulations, is my point exactly. So,
Y'all ready?
So somebody dropped the ball.
All right.
You did good. Thank you.
All right.
I mean,
Let's get started. Are y'all ready? Hey, Dr. Bailey, thanks for joining us.
How are you?
All right. I'm sorry you had to stand out there in the hall for a while. But we just went ahead and started the variances without you, if that's all right.
Yep, I was told I wouldn't need it.
All right. All right. Okay. Planning Commission will begin. Let me begin by calling the roll. Jaden Bailey.
Here.
All right. Alan Stark.
Here.
William Guschalk.
Here.
Jeff Spink.
Here.
Doug Tystad.
Here.
Robert Owens.
here.
Let it be known Steve Skeet is out tonight. Dan Clemens.
Here.
And Steve Rosenthal.
Here.
All right. So we are up to 8 present for voting now. Approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second. Go.
All right. I have a
Dan?
have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes. I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stewart.
Yes.
William Guschalk.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tystad.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Dan Clemens.
Yes.
And Steve Rosenthal.
Yes, here.
All right. Minutes are approved 8-0. Secretary's report.
All right. Again, this is for the Planning Commission. You have 4 items on the consent agenda, and you have 6 items on the regular agenda. So we will proceed as that. But I also wanted to take this opportunity to introduce Dawn Chamberlain, who is our new planning coordinator in the office. I don't know if she wanted to. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
guys will definitely be in contact with Dawn from here on out. So if you have questions, please contact her.
Thank you. Okay. Any other report? All right. Thank you. Do I have any declarations tonight? None? All right. Do I have a motion to approve of the agenda?
So moved.
All right. I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Doug, second. Thank you. I'll call roll for approval of agenda. Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stork,
Yes.
William Gusshott,
Yes.
Jeff Spink,
Yes.
Doug Tysted,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Dan Clemens,
Yes.
and Steve Rosenthal.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 8-0. Yep, got it right. All right, consent agenda is approved. We'll go into the regular agenda. Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV-24-051 and 052, a preliminary and final plat for Metro Estates as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. Staff report, please.
All right, gentlemen, the next case is case DEV 24-051 and 052. This is a preliminary and final plat consideration of a property located at 25402 Metro Avenue. The applicants are proposing to divide or to subdivide into 3 separate lots, which would be known as Metro Estates. As a note, this property was recently rezoned to RR 2.5, which is why the zoning map reflects differently on here. The case does require this case does require an exception for the lot depth to lot width requirement for the lots. An exception is based upon 3 criteria needed for approval, and those criteria can be found within your staff report. As a reminder, we would need a motion for the exception before the disposition of the plats. If the exception were to be approved, it would be in conformance with regulations. Staff is supportive of this request. The applicant is here to discuss their request further and to answer any questions you may have. With that being said, I am subject to your questions.
All right. Thank you. Lost where I was. Thank you. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Joe Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th Street, Leavenworth, Kansas. Just here to answer any questions on this case and any other case you may have that when it comes up, instead of me standing up every time. So, if you have any questions, staff handled it very well. It's an irregular shaped property with some floodplain, and that's why we're having exceptions and everything in there.
Any questions from the commission for Mr. Herring?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Any other additional information need to be presented?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Are there questions, comments from the members of the commission? Okay, no question. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the exception for case DEV 24-051 and 052, a preliminary and final plot.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the exception for case number DEV-24-051 and 052, as explained by staff.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. All right. Any discussion? Any discussion from the commission? Okay. I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Alan Stark?
Yes.
William Gusshott?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Dan Clemens?
Yes.
And Steve Rosenthal?
Yes.
All right. The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve the plat for case DEV 24-051 and 052.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve case number DEV-24-051 and -052 as presented by staff.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Thanks, Dan. I have a motion and a second. I'll call roll. Is there any discussion of the motion? I'm sorry. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right. I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Alan Stork?
Yes.
William Gusshott?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Dan Clemens?
Yes.
And Steve Rosenthal?
Yes.
All right. The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will now consider this item no earlier than September the 4th at 9 o'clock in the morning, in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. It's coming out of me. You just can't take me away from that. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 24-071 and 072, a preliminary and final plat for Serenity Acres, as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing. The planning staff will now give a staff report.
All right, gentlemen, the next case is case DEV -24-071 and 072. This is a preliminary and final plat consideration of the property located at 1808 166th Street. The applicants are proposing to subdivide into two separate lots, which would be known as Serenity Acres. As a note, this property has a concurrent application of DEV 24-096, the POTS variance that was just approved, and would have, in this case, would normally have been on the consent agenda. However, since this case was dependent upon the disposition of the variance, it was placed on the regular agenda. This property does have a single-family residence, which would remain on Lot 2. This case is in conformance with regulations now that the variances have been approved. The applicant is here to discuss their request further and to answer any questions you have. With that being said, I'm subject to your questions.
Thanks, Josh. Does the applicant wish to speak? You already got it earlier. Thanks, Joe. Is there any additional information, Josh, that you need to represent?
No, sir.
Okay. Questions and comments from the members of the commission on this case? Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the plat.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve case DEV -24-071 and 072, preliminary and final plat is meeting the requirements as laid out by the staff.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Okay. Thanks, William. Second. I have a motion and a second. Discussion from the commission? All right. I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Alan Stork?
Yes.
William Gusshott?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Dan Clemens?
Yes.
And Steve Rosenthal?
Yes.
The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will now consider this item no earlier than September 4th at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 24-079, a preliminary plat for E&R Rolling Meadows South, as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing. Staff report, please.
All right. Before you is case DEV 2479, which, as you mentioned, is E&R Rolling Meadows South. This is a preliminary plat only, due to the fact that they are proposing to plat 9 lots. The parcel in its current configuration is 54.9 acres. It is located at 00000 Stillwell Road. The applicant is, as mentioned, proposing to plat a 9-lot subdivision in this location. Currently, Lot 2 does not meet the lot depth to lot width requirements. There is floodplain located on this property, which is what they indicated in their exception request as a reason to support that. In addition, it is an unusually shaped lot. As you can see, there's a bump out where Lot 2 is, so it does make sense that the exception would be approved. Another thing to note is that the local water district, or Water District 10, does have the capacity to support meters for lots 5 through 9. Currently, they do not have enough water capacity to support lots 1 through 4. However, lots 1 through 4 are all 5 acres in size or greater. Therefore, they would be entitled to water wells if they so choose. Otherwise, they would need to upgrade that system. Staff has reviewed this, and it is in compliance if you guys approve that exception. However, staff is in support. So if you have any other questions, let me know. Joe is in attendance if you have questions for him.
I did have a question. Why is Lot 2 not in compliance when lots 1 and 3 end up the same depth but are the same width?
They are the same width. However, lot depth is determined by the average of the depth. So as you can see, lot 1 has one side that is shorter than the other. It's same for lot 3. So when you take the average of those, they actually are in compliance with the 1 to 3.5 ratio.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Applicant wish to speak? He's already, thank you. Any additional information?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the members of the commission? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the exception of case DEV 24-079.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the exception for case DEV-24-079, preliminary plat, as presented by staff.
Thank you, Alan.
Second.
And I have a second by Mr. Tysted. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Call the roll. Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stark.
Yes.
William Gutschalk.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tysted.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Dan Clemens.
Yes.
And Steve Rosenthal.
Yes.
The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0 for the exception. I'll entertain a motion to approve the plat for case DEV 24-079.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve plat for case number DEV-24-079 as presented by staff.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Robert. Discussion on the floor? Okay, I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stark.
Yes.
William Gutschalk.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tysted.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Dan Clemens.
Yes.
And Steve Rosenthal.
Yes.
The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0. All right. 9 Delta. The Livermore County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV-084, boundary line adjustment exception for Cook Richter as outlined in the posted agenda. Did I pronounce that last name right? Cook
Richter.
Richter. Okay,
Yes, sir.
good. Yeah. This is not a public hearing item. Staff report, please.
Gentlemen, the next case is case DEV 24-084. This is a request for consideration of an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3I. And this is the lot depth to lot width from the Leavenworth County Zoning and Subdivision Regulations. The current zoning for this property is RR5, which is also the same for the future land use designation. This property is located along 219th Street, which is known as 28 813 219th Street. The applicants are proposing a boundary line adjustment to move the north property line of the subject tract that will bring a non-compliant accessory structure into compliance. This lot exceeds the 1-to-1 ratio for the lot depth to lot width, which is the need for the exception. The exception is based upon 3 criteria needed for approval, and those criteria can be found on page 2 of your staff report. The applicant agent is here for questions. With that being said, I am subject to yours.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, go to the color photo.
Huh?
Was there a color photo? I thought I had.
That was the next case.
Yeah,
sir.
that's right. Yeah, it was just this one. Okay, all right.
You
Joe?
want me to go back to the front
No,
one?
I got it. The applicant wishes to speak. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I'm not Joe.
Now you're good.
Oh, dang it.
My name is Austin Thompson, and I'm with Atlas Lane Consulting. We're at 14500 Parallel Road, Unit R, Baser, Kansas 66007. And what the owner's looking to do is that accessory structure is about 13 feet over the current property line. They're looking to move the property about 35 feet north, which will then bring the accessory building into compliance. The property that is existing there is actually already out of compliance due to the way the addresses work. The reason the property doesn't meet 1-to-1 is because it's not north-south, it's east-west. So you have a long, skinny strip property, but it's really facing towards the east. So you have a really wide but no depth. So we're only adding an additional 35 feet, and it's to kind of approving this exception kind of knocks out 2 birds with 1 stone. You're bringing the property into compliance with an exception, and we don't have an accessory building over a property line. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
I was just, so you're moving the property line north, which puts the accessory building in the southern line?
Correct.
Okay.
So my next question is, was this accessory building just currently built, or has it been on the property for years?
From my understanding from the owner, that they did everything that they were supposed to do. I don't know the exact year, but they did what they were supposed to, pulled permits, and had it built. I think these are brothers, the Cook and Richter. They are brothers that one owns 226 acres, the other owns 14, and I think it's kind of one of those situations, you know, you own a bunch of land, they kind of threw it up and maybe didn't have the survey. So that is what we're here to do, is to correct the issue.
So one brother is giving it up, and the other brother is gaining a little bit of profit.
Correct, yeah, these are 2 brothers in exchange of land.
Kind of nice of the brothers to do that. There's a lot of people that can't say their brothers would do that. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any other additional information?
No, sir.
Okay. Any questions or comments, members of the commission? Okay, sir. I'll entertain a motion to approve the exception, case DEV 24-084, boundary line adjustment.
Well, let's fix this problem. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve case number DEV-24-084 as presented by staff and explained by a representative of the owners.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion and the second? All right, I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Alan Stark?
Yes.
William Guschock?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Dan Clemens?
Yes.
And Steve Rosenthal?
Yes.
All right. Motion is carried by a vote of 8-0, approving the adjustment exception. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming tonight.
Not Joe.
Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 24-094, a rezoning request from RR5 to RR2.5 as outlined in the posted agenda. This requires a public hearing. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report?
Case DEV 24094 is a rezoning request for the properties located at 20995 Honey Creek Road, 0000 Honey Creek Road, and 16625 206th Street. The applicants are requesting to rezone the 3 parcels from RR5 to RR2.5. The future land use map for this location is identified as residential 3 units per acre. This parcel is approximately, somewhere, 3/4 of a mile to the east of the city of Tonganoxie. Due to that distance and knowing where the available sewer and water is within the city of Tonganoxie, you're looking at well over a mile to where before they could hook up to water and sewer to support the density of 3 units per acre. Staff is supportive of this request. With that noted, going to 2.5 instead of say R1 or less because of the distance from public water and sewer. Staff did review this in compliance with the 7 golden factors. That has been provided in your staff report. So if you have any other questions, please let us know. The applicant is in attendance if you have questions for this one.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your full name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since this is a public hearing and it's being recorded. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Will the applicant please come forward? Thank you, Joe.
Joe Herring Surveying through 151 5th Street. Again, staff covered it. Brothers are just trying to rezone their property for estate and to also to get the smallest tract possible around the existing house out there. That's what's driving it, and the rest is estate planning and just being ready for the future, for their inheritance of the once the children inherit it.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. In favor? We'll now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Any additional information to be presented? All right. Thank you, ma'am. Public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. Are there any questions or comments from the members of the Commission? All right. I'll entertain a motion on this request. Case DEV 24-09, a rezoning request from RR5 to RR2.5.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve case number DEV-24-094 as presented by staff and explained by representation.
Thank you, Alan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Stan. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Okay. I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Alan Stark?
Yes.
William Gusshot?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Dan Clemens?
Yes.
And Steve Rosenthal?
Yes.
The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0 to approve the rezoning request. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than September the 4th, 2024. The commission meeting is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 24-095, a rezoning request from RR5 to RR 2.5 as outlined in your posted agenda. This requires a public hearing. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report, please.
Case DEV 24095 is a request to rezone the property at 13963 206th Street from RR5 to RR 2.5. The future land use map does designate this location as residential 2.5 acre minimum. This parcel does have a house on it. It is actually two parcels per legal description. However, one is non-compliant. So the applicant is requesting to rezone it to 2.5 so that they can bring one of the parcels into compliance and therefore make it a buildable lot. As you can see, they provided the concept drawing for you to review. So if you approve this, they would be able to move forward with that boundary line adjustment application.
So this, if it's approved, this actually feeds another approval action required.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, but that one would be an administrative.
Right, administrative, got it. Yep. Okay.
So the applicant is in attendance. Staff's recommendation and analysis was provided in your staff report.
Yep.
If you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your full name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Zip one out, are you?
No.
No.
Joe Herring, surveying 315 North Fifth Street. Staff covered it. Just want to bring the property into compliance and adjust the deeds, the description. So, have any questions?
There's no easements, there's no issues, there's no exceptions, there's no boundaries, there's no, okay.
No weird driveway.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's a good point there. I'm keeping you on your toes. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of the request. Okay. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Any additional information to be presented? Thank you, ma'am. The public comment portion of this public hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. Are there questions or comments from the members of the commission? Okay. I'll entertain a motion on this request for case DEV 24-095, a rezoning request from RR5 to RR 2.5.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve case number DEV-24-095 as presented by staff and by representation.
Thank you, Alan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Robert, thank you, sir. Have a second. Any discussion of the motion? Okay. Roll call vote. Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stark.
Yes.
William Gufchalk.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tystad.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Dan Clemens.
Yes.
And Steve Rosenthal.
Yes.
The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0 to approve the rezoning request. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than September the 4th, 2024 meeting. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
And I have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right.